Many people dream of making a video game. The idea of having your own creative ideas being interactive in front of you and enjoyed by others is one many people aspire to. Ever since I was a child, I've always wanted to work in a game studio. I remember playing Minecraft and World of Warcraft and thinking how cool it would be to work in the studios which made these games. And when I was younger, around about 12, I finally got inspired to actually pick up programming, starting with Python. And ever since then, I've been working towards this goal. And even though video game development may not be the most lucrative programming role, it's one I definitely want to get into. I'm currently studying computer science at the University of Exeter in the hopes for a first degree that would allow me to work in the States at some of these great companies. And I feel like having a few games on my portfolio would be great, even if they never get published. So to help out with this, I've decided to make a very simple but attainable 2D game using the Unity game engine. So I've decided to make this episode 0 because I kind of just want to go into my background and why I've decided to design the game that I have designed. Obviously, I expect the game design to change massively throughout. I've really done basically a bare bones of what I want to do, and I'll just add to it and hopefully, make something cool. And even if I don't, I'll learn something along the way. So I started programming around about 12 years old, which is funny because I actually used to make these old programming tutorials because I've also been doing YouTube for a long time. And looking back, just take a look yourself.
That's going to look a lot more nicer. So this looks nice, but it looks kind of dumb. I think the hashtag looks the nicest, but I think you can put these in between and it just makes it look nicer, the equals.
So yeah, I made a for loop using a while loop. I weren't very good, but I was starting somewhere, and I've definitely come quite a way since then. I think my first introduction to logical programming was way back when Redstone was first added to Minecraft. It may sound a little bit goofy saying Redstone was my first introduction, but it is binary logic, right? You have an on and off. I had to learn things such as AND gates, XOR gates, OR gates, all of these things which are maybe not used in high-level programming as much, but definitely used in low-level programming. I also messed around with command blocks and scoreboards, which learnt me variables, how to keep track of code, because my God, is coding stuff in command blocks just a mess. But yeah, so after that, I started learning Python, and it was really fun at first. I started learning all of the while loops, the for loops, and the first projects I started were like these interactive books. I used to love when I was younger, writing these little interactive books where, it was like, do you want to go down the hall or do you want to jump into the spike trap? And obviously, deciding what you do is you either walk down a hall or you die. And, I used to program these using like random number generators. So they weren't the most complex thing in the world, but I was pretty proud of them at the time. So I used to like choose a random name and a random room, and there might be like a random object in the thing. So every single time you played it, it was like completely different. I kind of just messed around with programming until I was around about 15, which is when I would say I started to take it a little bit more seriously. I downloaded Unity, I started learning C#, and, I introduced myself to OOP, like object-oriented programming. But it was a little bit too confusing for me at the time, so I kind of went back to Python, made some some web scrapers, very basic stuff. Yeah, eventually I started playing this game called Dwarf Fortress. Anyone who's programmed knows about this game. A massive game using ASCII graphics. I think there's actually a graphical version now, but it was using ASCII graphics at the time. And it was awesome. It was very in-depth. So much could happen. It was such a simulation of life. I think the developers have said there's something like 60% towards simulating a real world. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know, but it's very in-depth either way. And I was inspired by that, so I made this game called Kingdom, and it was all on one Python script, disgusting code. I don't even know how it works because it was so unmaintained. No documents. There's comments, but the comments are disgusting. And yeah, but to this day, I'm still pretty proud of this project. I made it when I was 15, maybe 16. And I would say it's pretty high tech for what it does. So what it does is it generates a whole world, within a 16 bounded number. So 16, 32, 64. It takes quite a while. It's not very efficient. So yeah, it generates mountains, hills, forests, deserts, lakes, a lot of cool stuff. And it's always an island. And I also generated rivers. Now the rivers don't work perfectly, but I had to learn. So, okay, going back. Okay, I didn't understand what pseudocode was. I never understood it. Obviously now I do. It's like the most useful thing ever. But back then, didn't know what it was. So I actually ended up figuring out how to draw a line on what is basically a 2D graph through the actual like maths behind it on the Wikipedia page, it wasn't good. It wasn't good, and that's why it only works somewhat. But I'm still proud of this project. It generates a whole world. It's quite a big chunk of code, but for me to be doing it at that age, I do feel pretty proud of that. Yeah, it also simulates two kingdoms fighting against each other, so they will use the terrain around them. So yeah, if they spawn in a forest, there's lots of food. Nice, they'll grow very quickly. But yeah, if they start in a mountain and there's no water near them, then they're going to grow really slowly. And obviously one kingdom's going to be the victor. And it just does year by year. And I made like this really crappy like renderer just in the console using Colorama. It's not my best work, but I'm definitely proud of it. It's probably one of my most proud projects to date. So yeah, fast forward a few years. I won't go through every single project, so we'll be here for ages. I worked on a ton of stuff between then and now. But I eventually, lockdown happened, COVID happened, and I ended up getting back into Minecraft. One of my friends actually online shot me a message and was like, hey, there's actually quite a lucrative industry here. Devs get paid quite a bit. Why don't you learn it? And yeah, they really do. It's a great thing to get into. Now, when you hear, oh, you're just coding Minecraft mods, you might think, that's a little bit silly. And admittedly, it's not as complex as a whole game, but the whole work structure and the company you're in is very intense. There are programmers there are external apps you've got to develop, there are, animations, choreographed attacks, AI, all of this stuff, because you've got to get it really high quality to actually sell it on the marketplace, right? And I still do this to this day whenever I need a little bit of money. It's definitely something to get into. It's really good. And to be honest, the programming isn't hard. It just takes a little bit of a while to learn. I've helped out on like the Wikipedia and stuff, bedrock.dev, if you ever want to check it out. But yeah, it definitely taught me how to work within a team, and also understanding like more basic frameworks for game development, and how animations tie into stuff. And it really taught me the bare basics of game development without having to learn like a super intense engine. Though there is like a saying within the industry, I guess maybe it's just between me and my dev friends, but we always say we're making games using Minecraft as the engine, because the things we end up making, we have to exploit Minecraft so much to do them. It's basically like using it as an engine. So yeah, after that, I worked for a couple of big YouTubers because they have teams and stuff which produce content. And I ended up at university, so I kind of left all of that behind. I still did the odd project whenever I needed money. I would say I was still working like a part-time job doing it, but I wasn't doing it at like 60 hours a week like I used to. And I also started focusing on actual programming more, because I want to end up in a fun industry and a job that I like. So I've got to really build that portfolio up. So I'm in my second year now, and I have quite a lot of spare time. I'm currently averaging a first at uni, way hey, and because I've been doing this for so long, a lot of the topics I'm learning is more just like catching up on what I already knew, and maybe learning a few new things here and there. But I've kind of got the baseline down, so I have quite a lot of spare time until like the harder content kicks in. So yeah, that's my background. I know it's been a little bit of a while and it's been a bit of a me fest, but I just wanted to give a background because I feel like it's important to understand where you are in your programming journey before you actually start a project like this. So what kind of game am I going to make? Am I going to make like a Minecraft, a No Man's Sky, a Fallout, awesome games, a Witcher, a Factorio? What am I going to make? Electric Box. This is a game which I used to play with my dad way back in the day. Basically what you do is you place down little components and they interact with each other, and you got to like figure out puzzles. One of my favorite things in gaming is the Portal 2 editor. Me and my Dutch friend used to, over lockdown actually, we used to give each other like an hour, and we used to make puzzles for each other. And after that hour, we used to play each other's puzzles. And making puzzles is very difficult, I've got to admit, but it's always kind of tempted me to try and, make my own kind of puzzle game. And once again, I feel like it's important not to overstress myself. I feel like a lot of people, their first game, now admittedly, this isn't technically my first game, but it's my first one I'm going to take seriously. But you want to play to your strengths, right? I don't want to start something which is insane. I don't want to start like, I'm going to make Factorio but 3D and in Minecraft, because realistically, I'm probably going to get stuck at some point and give up. Maybe burn out. I don't know if I'd give up. I'd probably burn out. So I feel like it's important to play to my strengths. So the stuff I've learned from all my experience is I love data. 2D graphics or kind of like voxelized graphics I'm pretty good at. So this kind of 2D, maybe 2.5D-esque might be fun. We'll play to those strengths. And also, it's not that complex. It's physics-based, so most of that's done by Unity. It's more just going to teach me the basics of like ray casting, colliders, collider detectment. One thing I think is going to be interesting is consistency, to make sure that the same thing happens every single time. So maybe learning like test-driven development inside of Unity. All of these kind of important things, I feel like it's going to be really good for kind of testing those waters. So yeah, obviously I'm not just going to copy this electric box game. I love the idea of components interacting with each other. Very cool. I like how Portal did it, and I like how this electric box game did it. Now, I want to add a level editor, and I think that's probably going to be the hardest thing, because I have very fond memories of me and my dad. We used to make puzzles for each other and then swap computers to solve the problems. I mean, it was sick. Greatest thing ever. I loved it. And I feel like if there's a way to output it maybe to a customized seed or something, where each coordinate, almost like chess notation, right? Where you'll have each object saved in like a string, and then you can just send that string to your friends. I think that could be really fun. So maybe like a 64 by 64 grid where we put like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to wherever 64 times 64 is. And then we just have like almost a hex code. So like 1 to F, or just the alphabet, capitalized and uncapitalized, for different components. That way you don't have to have a Steam workshop or anything. You can kind of just send a string and it will generate through the string. I feel like that could be pretty cool. So yeah, I kind of lost track here, but basically a physics game, maybe with more physics-esque stuff, like maybe like balls being thrown around the place, lasers, stuff like that, maybe components moving each other. Basically what I want to do at first is I want to just do lasers, because I feel like that will teach me 2D raycasting pretty well. And then from that point, I want to just add whatever I feel is cool. And I want to do it in a test-driven way. So yeah. So, you may be wondering, why are you starting like a whole devlog thing? Why not just program? The core answer is I have like two main hobbies, which is programming and content creation. I love editing videos. I love writing scripts, though admittedly this video hasn't had a script. I love all of that stuff. So the main reason is just because it's fun. And to be honest, I feel like that's the main reason you should probably do things in the first place. And, I've done both for years. I feel like I'm a all right video editor. And, I'm a pretty decent programmer, I think. So yeah, why not? Why not? Also, from an outsider perspective, I feel like it's a really good way to learn. Watching someone else learn the basics. You can see the common pitfalls, how they may have come around it, and also get inspired. One of the main reasons I'm making this channel is because I saw another devlog from someone who, I believe is just learning the engine, and I was like, what, that's a really cool idea. And also for feedback, there's a Discord down below. You're more than welcome to join for ideas and feedback on both the videos and programming. Maybe I'll meet some cool people, get some good feedback, and both of those are great things. Yeah, if you enjoyed the video, obviously this was episode 0, just laying out my experience and the idea behind the game. Episode 1 will probably be coming like a month or so. These take quite a while to make. If you did enjoy the video, hit the subscribe button, the like button. Obviously this is a new channel, so go crazy. Comment down below if you have any feedback, ideas for the game, etc. And yeah, have a good one. Bye bye.